Let's stand and sing.
Oh, look, honey, a standing ovation. We haven't had to do anything. That's fantastic. We love you people. All right, let's do a little sing and get ourselves maybe. Outside the door of love and mercy, you wonder if there's a place for you. You know the peace inside, but still you're searching for someone who understands the pain you've been through. The spirit waits with open arms, we're calling out your name. Come on in, welcome home, we wanna love you, belong here now. No matter where you've been, come on in, come on in, come on in. There is room enough in the whole world for someone just like you. Come on in, welcome home, we wanna love you, belong here now. No matter where you've been, come on in, come on in, come on in. Come on in, welcome home, we wanna love you, belong here now. No matter where you've been, come on in, come on in, come on in.
Good morning. I want you to know that all is well with the world today. Especially because 2 weeks ago I lost my credit card. Has anyone had that experience? You lose your credit card, your debit card, and the world's a little off kilter because you're spending time looking and looking and looking. And I've been asking my angels, where is that card? So this morning I got the message, check that pouch. And I checked it, and there it was. So all is well for me especially. Okay, so if you're joining us for the first time, we invite you to take a look at the table at the back, which has some free literature for you to take, to visit our bookstore, and receive a welcome package there. And if you're watching online, welcome. We're grateful that you're sharing your energy with us. So we have a few announcements to begin. Oh, so our tickets are on sale today for the spring into summer barbecue and dance. And of course, we've got Jim Chapman and the fabulous Incontinentals. So this is a fun event, and you can, as I say, pick up your tickets today. And something new is bring your own alcohol. So we won't be selling it like last time, but bring your own. So if you want to bring a bottle of wine for your table, whatever, you're welcome to do that. Or any other beverages that you would like. Okay, and the next announcement, Dawn, who is our outreach coordinator, is hosting a meeting at 11:45 this morning of the outreach team, well, of anyone that's interested in outreach and an outreach team, and talk about your ideas for outreach and do some dialoguing about that. So thank you, Dawn, for coming forward and doing that work. And then our last but not least is about the Mexican condo lottery. So if you haven't picked up an envelope to sell out in the community to friends, family, to buy yourself, whatever it is, the envelopes are still there. It's a little scary right now for the team to see that there's envelopes sitting in the box because we can't sell those tickets if they're in the box, right? So we want you to take them out and sell them and bring back full, completely sold envelopes. That would be great. Okay, and so we're going to sing again on the wings of a dove.
I think we all know this one. Let's have some. On the wings of a snow white dove, spirit is pure, sweet love, a sign from above. On the wings of a dove, troubles surround us, and problems come, our bodies grow weak, our soul may grow numb. These things beset us, Spirit doesn't forget us. Here and above, on the wings of a dove, on the wings of a snow white dove, spirit is pure, sweet love, a sign from above. On the wings of a dove, we may be downhearted, feeling lost and alone. Still, Spirit supports us, a foundation like stone. We are still cherished, we are still loved. The message is carried on the wings of a dove. Everybody now. On the wings of a snow white dove, spirit is pure, sweet love, a sign from above. On the wings of a dove, spirit is willing, even when we are weak. We harvest His blessings, even more than we see. We're lavished with kindness, we're surrounded by love. Spirit rests easy on the wings of a dove, on the wings of a snow white dove. Spirit is pure, sweet love, a sign from above. On the wings of a dove, beautiful. Let's do it again. On the wings of a snow white dove, spirit is pure, sweet love, a sign from above. On the wings of a dove, a sign from above. On the wings of a dove. Nicely done, folks. You just love the hand.
Good morning, everybody. Unity's Foundation.
Talk to the sound man.
I thought you could hear me. Unity's Foundation is affirmative prayer. If you wish prayer for someone else or for yourself, you're invited to use our prayer box right in front here. Put your first name only on a piece of paper and place it in the box. No need to explain the situation, as God is all-knowing. It will be prayed over here at Unity by our prayer angels for 30 days, and then sent on to Silent Unity for additional prayer. Remember, 24 hours a day, you can call 1-800-NOW-PRAY to reach Silent Unity, where people have been praying with and for people for over 130 years. And if you wish private one-on-one prayer, we have a prayer chaplain available to pray with you following today's service. You can meet our prayer chaplain in our prayer room, which is in behind the screen here. Let me see. Today's prayer chaplain is Pauline. Pauline, please come forward and lead us into prayer.
as we reach our hearts and souls together in prayer, may we remember all those in all of our communities who are praying at this time, who are worshiping today, and we reach out our hearts in respect and support for those people and for all of our friends of unity, both here and far away. We hold specially in prayer unity of New Westminster, BC, and unity of the Valley, White Rock, BC. And I invite you right now to whisper into the silence the names of anyone you hold especially in prayer. We also hold in prayer our dear administrator, Hilda, who lost her father in the last week, and anyone else in our community who is suffering the feeling of loss. Read a very brief prayer from the affirmative prayer booklet. The love of God within me and all around me is my source of harmony and courage. I proceed in peace and confidence, knowing my rightful powers of divine love and strength. And in the week to come, may your divine powers of love and strength uphold you and help to support anyone around you who is in need. And we say thank you, God, and so it is.
And now for our message from the Daily Word brought to you by Silent Unity. Gratitude. I am gratefully and wonderfully blessed. Henry David Thoreau wrote, I am grateful for what I am and have. My thanksgiving is perpetual. An attitude of thankfulness serves me well when I consider the many blessings for which I am grateful. In a quiet moment, I open mind and heart to experience the magnificence and magnitude of all that God is. I consciously know that I am grateful for divine presence in my life. Because of this, I give thanks in advance for the many possibilities and opportunities before me. Gratitude is the heart's response to life's infinite blessings. My gratitude expresses its peace, love, and joy. With anticipation and appreciation for future blessings, I affirm, I am gratefully and wonderfully blessed. And from Psalm 139, verse 14, I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made.
This is a song about the courage of life. Sometimes life takes a little courage, and sometimes we have to add a little courage to our lives too. This is a song by Jim Chapman. What I do if I knew that I could not fail? I believe with the wind always fill up my sails. How far would I go? What could I achieve? Trusting the hero in me. If I were brave, I'd walk the razor's edge where fools and dreamers dare to tread and never lose faith, even while losing my way. What step would I take today if I were brave? What if we're all meant to do what we secretly dream? What would you ask if you knew mighty old sweets in the heart of the sea. Are there miracles in you and me? If I were brave, I'd walk the razor's edge where fools and dreamers dare to tread. Never lose faith, even while losing my way. What step would I take today if I were brave? I refuse to listen to the voice of fear, or the voice of courage whisper in my ear. If I were brave, I'd walk the razor's edge where fools and dreamers dare to tread. Never lose faith, even when losing my way. What step would I take today if I were brave? La da 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 da, if I were brave, la da da. If I were brave, la da da da. If I were brave.
So just before I introduce Jim, because we kind of somehow skipped over something, so I want you to look around the room and see who is here this morning. And realize that everyone that you see is a special person. That all of us are a composite spiritual idea of the entire universe. Look at your neighbor and see that and so much more. Michael Beckwith says, look at your neighbor, see that, and a bag of chips. There's so much more. And I want you to look at your neighbor and just say to them, my, oh my, oh my. My, oh my, oh my. There is so much good in you. There is so much good in you. Hidden potential in you. Hidden potential in you. There's more joy. There's more joy. Love. Love. Prosperity. Prosperity. Abundance. Abundance. And more. And more. In you. In you. And you have come to set it free. And you have come to set it free. To make a mighty difference on the planet. To make a mighty difference on the planet. And so it is. And so it is. So just touch and agree. So this morning it's my pleasure to introduce to you someone that you know, but maybe you don't know the allness of what Jim is about. And when I was traveling south this year, I read his book, Come Back to Life, The Remarkable True Story of a Journey from Rock and Roll to Resurrection. It's a fabulous read. It's a fabulous read. I don't know if we still have copies in the bookstore, but if we do, you'll want to grab one. So Jim has worn many professional hats as a traveling musician, a booking agent, a talent manager, a recording studio owner, advertising agency owner, a jingle writer, a commissioned songwriter. We know he's written many beautiful songs for Unity, a communication consultant, a motivational speaker, a newspaper and magazine columnist. I'm sure many of you have read Jim, and a radio and TV talk show host for almost 25 years. I can remember being interviewed by you years ago at Roger's Table. And yes, and most importantly to us, he is our beloved music director. So let's give a warm welcome to our Don't forget the microphone.
Sounds more like a guy who can't keep a job. Thank you, Ken. Oh, I tell you, if I were brave, I'd be up here today doing what I'm doing right now. If I had any sense, I wouldn't be, because it's a beautiful day outside. However, I think we should all once again say thank you for this lovely day, so long in coming, right? Thank you. When Lori asked me if I would come and speak today, well, not come and speak, I'm here anyway, but if I would speak today, I wasn't sure that it was something that I really wanted to do. Not because I don't like being here among you people, because I do. This is, and I'm not making this up, this is my favorite part of the week. Carlin will tell you. I look forward to Sunday morning every week. It really is the highlight of my week to come here and worship with you folks. But I thought, what can I say compared to the profound things that you hear every week here from Reverend Lori and from our very talented group of speakers who rotate and share their insights with us. I thought, what can I do to add to that? Because, and here's the because, what have I done really? I mean, that list of things, sure, I did all of that, but I'm not a student. I didn't finish high school. I never went to college. What do I know about anything really, other than what I picked up along the way? And I'm not sure that any of that is going to enlighten anybody here. But the one thing that happened to me in my life that I think perhaps sets it apart from some folks, not in a better or worse way, just different, is that in 1999 I died. I had a heart attack at a health club where I was working out. And by the time they got me to the hospital and did all the things they do to you in that situation, and stabilized me enough that I could talk to the doctor, which I did, the doctor and the nurses, I was chatting away to them, and I suddenly was overcome with this terrible weariness. And I'd been fighting this ever since the heart attack had started, the onset of this experience, which lasted about 30 minutes. It wasn't like that. At least not originally. It became like that, but that was a little bit later. So they got me to the hospital, got me in there, talking to the doctors and the nurses, and I suddenly was overcome with this terrible feeling of weariness that, as I said, I've been putting off. Because my theory was this. I was working in the media then, and I thought this would be a great story for the radio program, a newspaper column, something in Business London magazine maybe. This is fantastic. I have the opportunity now to be right in the middle of Ontario's healthcare system, which was taking a lot of shots in those days, and deservedly so in some areas and not so much in others. So I thought, this is a great thing for me. What I need to do, though, is I need to stay very aware of everything that's happening. I can't allow myself to just close my eyes and relax, which is what my body was telling me. Just close your eyes, close your mind, just shut up and relax. I was so profoundly exhausted in that, just in that moment. It just happened in that moment. So while we were going from the health club to the hospital, I decided that I needed to make sure I could remember what was going to happen to me. Now, there's a trick that a lot of journalists use, and it is a trick, but it works for some people. It certainly works for me, and I've used it many times. I've had interviews in situations where I didn't have or couldn't use a recorder or a notepad, but I wanted to be sure that I remembered as well as possible. I wanted to remember what happened and what was said by the people I was talking to. So I read somewhere, I can't remember where, but some well-known writer had said that he had a little trick that he used. He visualized a notebook, actually saw in his mind's eye a notebook, and then visualized himself writing in that notebook. So if he wanted to remember key details of a scene he was viewing or an event he was at or someone he was interviewing, he would have that mental note, not just, oh, I want to remember that, but the actual memory of seeing those words on paper, if only in his mind. And I thought, that's a fascinating thing, I'll try that out. The first person I did it with was Paul Martin, who was the finance minister at the time, and I had a last-minute impromptu 1-hour interview with him, which I was very pleased to get. But I didn't have any of my tool. I had no notebook. I didn't have a report. Didn't have anything. And he was very gracious, and I explained that I was not going to be taking any notes, and I hope he didn't mind that, and he didn't, but I was taking them up here. And it worked really well. At the end of the interview, he said, thank you very much. I went home, I sat down at the computer, I transcribed everything, and I'm very confident that what I got from that interview was in fact what he had said. So I started to do that anytime I was in that kind of situation. I found myself that way with Marianne Williamson one time, who's been a guest here. I was interviewing her, and combination of circumstances, couldn't write anything down, couldn't record anything, so I used my little mental notebook, and it worked a fair treat. It really worked well. So over the years, I used that whenever I was in that kind of situation. So here I was, in that kind of situation. Nothing to write on, probably couldn't have written anyway. It's a funny thing about a heart attack, I don't know how many people may have experienced it, but you lose a certain amount of control of your fine motor skills. I couldn't write for a couple, 3 weeks afterwards. So obviously I couldn't have written then, but I could write in my mind, and I started taking notes. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, is taking notes, is memory, is remembering things. Now we've been hearing messages about that this month. That's been the theme of Unity this month here. And we've had some, I think, really wonderful insights from our speakers, including Rev. Laurie last week, who I told her I thought was one of the most inspiring, for me, one of the most inspiring talks I've heard here. It was really wonderful. So, remembering and memory. I've got the little trick, right? I have expired on the gurney. I am now clinically dead. The doctors and the nurses are doing all the things they do to you in that kind of situation, but I'm totally oblivious of it. This was not one of those situations where you hear about where people rise out of their bodies and look down at what's happening and so on. That didn't happen to me at all. I went somewhere else. And it's the somewhere else that I think is important, and to me is really what my story is all about. It's not so much that long list of jobs that I couldn't seem to keep. It's being able to recall the things that happened to me while I was, as I jokingly say, over yonder, on the other side. What do they really mean? What do those things mean? And how much can I depend on them? And here's where memory comes in. You know, scientists will tell you that memory is a very fluid thing, and it's not what most of us think. To most people, I suspect, if you said, what is a memory, we'd get some version of, well, it's a mental picture of an event or a person or a time or a place that you bring forward from your memory banks in your mind. And that's what it is, and it's a representation of what happened. And if you've got a good memory, it'll be a good representation. Well, most brain scientists would laugh at that comment, at that statement, because they know it's not true. Most police officers will tell you that eyewitness accounts of an event or a crime are among the least useful to them, because the things that people think they saw, think they experienced, are quite often, in fact more often than not, are not at all what happened. Our brains play little tricks with us. They play tricks when the information goes in, and they play tricks when the information comes out. Here's why. Scientists will tell us, I heard that fellow use this example, and I thought it was wonderful. He said, when something happens, and we view something, we see something happen, or we hear it happening, or we're part of it happening, all of that information goes into a little bin in your memory bank. There's a little bin there, and all of that stuff goes in. But we tend to think, because when we try to bring something out of the memory banks, usually it comes as a picture, a little movie clip, a soundtrack, something. Whatever it is we're trying to recall, there it is. That's not how our brains work, though. Our brains take all of the input that have come to our body, all of the different inputs that have come, and they put all of that information, they dump that into that bin. So it's there all right. You know, February the 3rd, 1989 is in here somewhere. What happened? Was there something noteworthy on that day? Well, if there was, and I can somehow find that memory, and we all know, especially as we get older, that can be tougher now than it used to be. But when we can find that memory, what is it that we find? Do we find a movie of what happened? No, we don't. Do we pull forth a transcript of what happened? Do we have word by word by word? Well, we may think we do, but in fact we don't. We don't do that. Do we get a beautiful color photograph of that moment in time? Well, yeah, maybe. We might see that. But chances are we won't. You know, the Barbra Streisand song, I was thinking about that this morning. Memories, the misty watercolor memories. And that's how a lot of our memories are. They're kind of misty. The colors are kind of muted. And you think about that. Think about your own memories when you try to go back to something. Are they as vivid and as bright as real life is? Then I would suggest that for most of us they are not. And the reason for that is that all that information is in that bin. You send a little runner to go to your memory bank and say, I want the bin for that day and time and that event, and he goes and gets it and dumps it on the table, and it's just a pile of information there. All to do with that event or that time or that place, but not organized particularly, because your brain doesn't do that. That's not how it works. When all that information now is laying on the table, then the brain takes a look at it and says, ah, well, I remember that, and I remember that, okay, that's good, and yeah, that would work, I can move that over here, and I can, yeah, okay, and here's your memory. Well, that's nice, and may have some value to it, but the reality is that you can't trust it. I have a really vivid memory that I've had since I was 4 or 5 years old of being at the old hospital over here, at South Street campus at Vic Hospital. I had fallen in the basement. My mother sent me to get a bottle of ketchup, and my sister is here today, and she will remember this. She sent me to get a bottle of ketchup in the basement, and I fell, and I cut my hand rather badly. So they rushed me off to the hospital, and I have a crystal clear, as clear as you can imagine, memory of sitting in the hospital on a bed, on a hospital bed, but sitting up in the bed. The doctor's there, he's got my hand, he's stitching my hand up, he's talking to me, he's trying to keep me from spinning out, because I'm a little kid, and I don't remember that it hurt. I'm sure they must have frozen. I don't remember any pain, but he was trying to keep me calm. My mother was sitting beside me, and she was holding my other hand and stroking my hair, and it's a beautiful, tender moment. Except it's not true. Those of you in the front row, my wife and my sister will know this, that scar is on my right hand. It's right there. Now my memory, my absolutely crystal clear memory, is of that doctor sitting on the left side of the bed and stitching up, I guess, my left hand, except it was my right hand. Now I know that it was the right hand because I've got proof right here. And yet, if I were to close my eyes and visualize, I'm doing it right now, and visualize that hospital room again, he is still sitting on my left-hand side, and he is still monkeying with my hand. Even though I know it's not true, that's the image that my memory brings me. So, what do we do about the fact that we can't depend on our memories, but they're really important to us? Because think of all the things you've learned in your life. You don't want to forget those things. All the little life hacks, they call them now, all the little ways in which we make our lives better. We don't want to forget those. The larger things, the spiritual things, the things we hear about every Sunday here on this stage from Reverend Laurie and our other speakers. We don't want to forget those things, those lessons, the lessons that they have learned and are sharing with us, or that we already knew but we're pleased to be reminded of. All of those things. We don't want to forget those. So how do we make sure, as much as we can, that the memories we bring back out of that memory bin, that they are as accurate as possible? Now you might think, gee, that's a tough question. How would we do that? How could you do that? Well, my experience, my after-death experience, I don't like the term near-death experience that people use, because it's, you're near death, or you're dead or you're not. And in my case, I was clinically dead when all this succeeding stuff happened to me, before they finally managed to scare my heart back into action. And There's a funny story about that too, that apparently they gave up on me. They tried for several minutes and they gave up. The doctor later told me this because I interviewed him for the book that Mark was kind enough to mention. That is for sale in the bookstore. Young nurse. There was a young nurse there who I later met. She was Michelle. She was a very nice girl. And they had been working away on me, and they couldn't get my heart to start again, and they were just about done. And the doctor that I talked to said, "Yeah, we were about ready to sign the papers." And the young girl said, "Oh, we have to try one more time because I really liked his radio show." It's true. It's true. True story. And so, okay, bang, and that one worked. So I was back. But all that stuff that happened, all the memories that I had were in that period between I feel terrible and finally was brought back to life and back to consciousness. So remember I talked about writing everything down. So I remembered what had happened. As soon as I came out of the being unconscious, after they had brought me back, I had a brief discussion with the doctor about what had happened, which he told me later was almost unheard of. People just don't do that. They're normally not lucid after they've gone through all of this stuff and been paddled several times as I was. And he said, "You were perfectly lucid." I'd never seen that before. He said, "I've seen it a couple times since, but I'd never seen it before you." And it was very interesting. We had quite a chat there. So as soon as I finished talking with him, I closed my eyes and fell asleep. But when I woke up, the first thing I did was run through those memories again. I went through my little notebook. Now, I'm not going to pretend to you that I could see every single letter and every single word that I'd written in that notebook. I think it was part of a process that by slowing things down enough to actually write them in my mind, it helped to engrave them on my mind, if you will. So, the book tells all the stories of what happened to me. I don't want to repeat them now because I don't have time, for one thing, and that's really not why I'm here today, but there were some really valuable lessons that I learned. One of them is something that we're very familiar with here in Unity, and that's the concept of spirit being part of all of us. And I came to that realization while I was in the middle of this experience in this other place, this Over Yonder. I came to that conclusion because of what I saw and felt, and it's in the book to you, the whole experience there of what happened to me and what I went through. But to go back to that, now, after the fact, now I'm in the hospital, and I'm trying to make some sense out of that and a lot of other stuff, because there was a lot of information that I was given that was, and it's really hard to describe this, but it was imparted to me, it was shared with me, it was sort of it wasn't words, it wasn't written, it wasn't spoken, it was just this incredible presence that seemed to fill me and surround me and gave me all of these insights into many of the things that I've been wondering about in my life. So there I am, over yonder, learning the kinds of things I'm going to need to be a better person. Which really, through all those jobs that Lori mentioned, there was always a driving purpose for me, although I didn't always recognize it. I always wanted to make the next day a little better than this day. With people, with my career, with the guests on the programs I was doing, the radio and TV programs, I wanted every interview to be a little better than the last one, and so that's how I lived my life. And I came to learn that that's not necessarily a good thing to do, that we need to look at the really important things in life. And that's the people around us, that's the relationships we have with people. And that, I believe, is where this great intersection between spirit of all of us and our individual lives exists, in that small area there. That's where it is. So how do I now, all these years later, almost 20 years later, how do I keep myself invigorated with all the things that I learned? Well, it's fairly simple. I keep going back to those memories. I trust them because I wrote them down, and as soon as possible, I actually wrote them on paper. So I know from a very few days after they happened, I had it down on paper as best I could, what I could remember. My mind has tried to change some of those memories, and you'll all have experienced that. Your mind does sometimes try to change things. Oh, I remember that. I remember going there. Yes, and that dress she wore was yellow. That was beautiful. Well, it wasn't a yellow dress. You think of it wasn't, but we've all had that experience with our mind trying to play little tricks with us that way. Mind doesn't do that, at least not with these things, because it can't. Because all I have to do is go back and read my notes again. Now, I've since applied that to things other than that experience in my everyday life, and it works there too. If you have a positive memory, and those are the best ones, you have a positive memory, something you want to remember, something you need to remember, revisit that memory as regularly as you can. Go back and experience that memory. Experience how you felt. Experience what you can see. Experience what your brain has put together from that pile of information on that table in your memory bank when they dumped out that bin. Whatever your brain has managed to put together, you want to look at that. You want to look at it in the context of reality too. Is it your right hand that was cut or your left hand? Because your brain will play those tricks on you. Don't let it do that, but revisit those messages. Revisit the important things that people have shared with you. Revisit the lessons we get here every Sunday. Revisit the lessons that you get in your reading, because I know many people are great readers about things spiritual. That's why we're here to a great extent in this congregation, is because we all share that interest. So, I'm out of time. I don't want to go over, because Lori's going to really come after me if I do. She warned me about that. But I do want to leave you with the thought that, for me, the reason why I care about the accuracy of memory is because I saw firsthand, how it doesn't work, left hand, right hand. And that is a very vivid memory for me. But the other thing is that the things that are of real importance to us, the ones that really matter, the ones that make us who we are, the decisions we've made, the experiences we've had, these are all things that we do not want to lose. We don't want them to sort of get washed overboard and left far behind as we motor on into the future. And the way to make sure that doesn't happen is to revisit your memories regularly, particularly the good ones. In fact, in my case, I avoid bad memories. I have no interest in them because they have nothing really to teach me at this point. If I've been smart along the way, I've already learned the lessons they taught me, so that's the end of it. But I revisit the good ones all the time. I go back and revisit what was shared with me when I was on the other side, and lots of other things in my life too that I revisit on a regular basis, because it reminds me of all the good things I've experienced. It reminds me of all the tools I've acquired to live a better life, all the ways, the coping mechanisms I've developed to get through this very trying life that we all live. This modern life is not an easy thing to do. So I would leave you with that thought today, that the most important thing about your memories is to exercise them, to keep them a part of your life. The good things that went into making the you are today can help strengthen the you are today. All you have to do is keep revisiting them, keep reminding yourself of their truth and of the positive changes that all the good things in your life have made. And my suggestion to you is that if you're anything like me, you will find that that's an effort well worth making. And the results you're going to find very, very rewarding indeed. I thank you very much for your attention.
So I want to give Jim another 5 minutes, because you shared with us that one of the important messages that you received was about relationships. I wonder if there's one other key message that you could share with us about what you were told. Or...
Well, an encore. What do you think of that? Well, there were 10 things that I will. There were 10 things that I pulled out of that pot, and I condensed them into what I called lessons learned. And because for me, that's exactly what they were. They were lessons that I learned, that I was taught while I was over yonder. And again, not through words, not through written materials, not through movies, just through this, and I'm not sure whether there's such a word as sufficient, is there? to be suffused with something, whatever the word would be, to be suffused with something. One of those 10 lessons learned was about helping other people. But more than that, it's about allowing yourself to be helped by other people. And this to me is a really important one. I said there's 10 of them, but I think this is as important to me as any of them. Because I'm one of those people, always was one of those people who really did not like asking for help. If there's anything I could do, any way I could avoid asking somebody for help, I would do that rather than ask people. Not because I didn't want to feel indebted to them, but because I didn't want them to feel beholden to me. Because if you ask someone for a favor, they can either say yes, in which case you're happy. Maybe they're not, but they've said yes. Or they'll say no, in which case you're probably not happy and we're not sure where they are. The lesson that I was given about that is that by asking someone for something, you are in fact giving them something. You are giving them the opportunity to reach out and help someone else. And I think that most of us, probably everyone in this room, would be pleased at some level, even though it might be inconvenient, it might not be what we want to do at the time, but I'm sure that almost everyone here, and I hope everyone here, in a situation where someone came to you in need and asked you for something you could help them with. I'm not saying you need a new car when you give me a new car, but will you help me with this? Could you help me with that? Whatever those things are. That by asking, the act of asking is a gift. It's a giving to other people because you are giving them the opportunity to help. And who doesn't like to help? I think we all do. Someone comes and says, can you help me with this? And if you can do it, I think for most of us, your first reaction is, well, of course. You know, let me think for a second how I can do it and when I can do it, but yeah, of course I want to help you. Not the least of the reasons for which is because you came and asked me for help. So I think, for me, that's one of the big ones. And I think it applies in our lives every day. Not that we need to run around and ask, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? Can you help me with something else? But when we need help, we should never, ever be afraid to ask people for it. The worst they can say is no, and they will have good reasons for saying no. So if you respect that person and like that person, you will respect the fact that they couldn't help you in this instance. If they can help you, so much the better. You get the assistance that you need, but you've also given them the gift of the opportunity to be of service to another human being. That made no sense to me at all, would have made no sense to me at all until I had my experience. And afterwards, it was crystal clear. Somebody asked me once, well, you've talked about this being suffused with all this information, and how did you get all this information? And what was it like? And you said nobody spoke to you, and nobody wrote anything. So, here's what it's like. This occurred to me just the other day. It's like, you've been driving your car in the wintertime and your windshield gets progressively dirtier and dirtier and dirtier and dirtier, but you really don't notice because the weather's dreary and it's snowing and there's always something going on. And then you take the car to the car wash and you come out of the car wash and my God, you can see. You know what that's like? Remember that? Think about that difference from a really dirty windshield to suddenly it's crystal clear. You can't even see the glass. You just see the world out there. That's what these lessons were like for me. That there was just sort of this gray, muddy quasi-reality out there, whatever it was. And when I had received all this information, it was just like someone had cleaned that window and just made it sparkle. So, I leave that thought with you too. There are 8 more. I'm not trying to push the book at all. I'll give you a copy if you want. But there are 10 lessons in there like that were imparted to me and have made a tremendous difference in my life. And thank you for the opportunity to talk about one more. Appreciate it.
Okay, let's prepare for meditation.
can feel His mighty power and His grace. I can hear the brush of angel wings, see glory on His face. Surely the presence of love is in this place. Surely the presence of love is in this place. I can feel His mighty power and His grace. I can hear the rush of angels' wings, see glory on each face. Surely the presence of love is in this place.
Become comfortable in your chair. Just become comfortable and relax your shoulders down and perhaps uncross arms and legs and be open and receptive to the movement of Spirit through you. And I'm reminded of a beautiful story about an eager soul who wanted to have a life experience, a body. Ooh, I want a body so badly. And all of the guidance that Spirit gave this eager soul, that you might not get the body you really want, or you might not be in the family that is the easiest, and your road might not be so easy, but you decide you want that journey anyway. You're so eager to step into a body and live and walk on the earth. And of course, Spirit would remind you that while you're walking this journey on the earth, that you are a spiritual being. And the journey is about being a spiritual being in a human body, rising above the day-to-day challenges so that you can express your divine nature in the midst of it all. And as you're going out the door, you're so eager to get out that door and get into that body. God would say to you, my beloved, remember to keep in touch. And so meditation is our opportunity to keep in touch. Is there something that you would say to your higher self about this journey you've been walking? A memory you have, and just share it with Spirit, with your higher self, and hear the guidance to move through that in return. And we'll do that now. And so we're grateful for the connection. And remember that any time we can just become still wherever we are and tap into that inner wisdom within us, to hear the voice, to hear the guidance, to know that we are fully supported on this journey, and how important it is to keep in touch. So we take a deep breath in. And we let it out. And we say, and so it is, and so we let it be. Amen.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Thank you, Jim, for sharing your memories of your death experience and reminding us how important it is to be of service in our relationships. Now, it's our time for giving and receiving your tithes and offerings. Our unity principles teach us we are one with God, Source, and so we give not to source, but as source. Giving has been described as a spiritual practice of radical generosity insofar as the intent is to be an extension of spirit. Tithing to what we wish to see flourish. Tithing as a source is God in expression. At the back of the sanctuary, you will find intention cards. These may also be placed in the offering bag. This week, our prayer angels will uphold your intentions for what you want to achieve, either as a plan for your day or your life. Now let us affirm our prosperity together by singing our offering blessing.
Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, and so it is. Well, this tune is one that came to us as a suggestion, I think, of Reverend Lori, wasn't it? No? Kathy. Kathy Dole.
Used it in one of her.
So, I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry, Kathy. Technology. Okay, so this is a tune by Johnny Reed. Some of you people may know Johnny Reed. And if you don't, well, this is what he sounds like, sort of. Today I'm going to try to change the world. Going to take it one day at a time. Made my resolution, open up my eyes. Today I'm going to try and change the world. I'm going to say hello to my neighbors, greet him with a smile, shake the hand of a stranger, then talk with him for a while. Gonna tell someone I love them from the bottom of my heart. Today I'm going to try and change the world. Today I'm going to try and change the world. Gonna take it one day at a time. Made my resolution, open up my eyes. Today I'm gonna try and change the world. Today I'm gonna try to change the world. Gonna take it one day at a time. Make my resolution, open up my eyes. Today I'm gonna try to change the world. I made my resolution, open up my eyes. Today I'm gonna try and change the world. Today I'm gonna try and change the world. Gonna take it one day at a time. I made my resolution, open up my eyes. Today I'm gonna try and change the world. Why don't you sing this with me now? Today I'm gonna try and change the world. Gonna take it one day at a time. I made my resolution, open up my eyes. Today I'm gonna try and change the world. Today I'm gonna try and change the world. Today I'm gonna try and change the world. Thank you very much. Thank you, Cassie.
Okay, let's pass our honors. So we're grateful for the givers of these gifts and for these gifts so that they will move through this ministry in a powerful way to transform lives. Through the programs we offer, through our Sunday service experience, we're grateful for not only these gifts, but the gifts that come in through the mail and those that are given online. We know that we are here to transform lives. And so it is. Amen. Okay, let's stand and sing.
Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, family are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me, let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me.
And perhaps the most important memory of all is the one where we remember who we are. That we are divine, spiritual beings having a human experience, doing our very best at any and every moment. And sometimes, our best doesn't look too good. But it's our best. And in those moments we have compassion for both ourselves and others. And so remember to keep in touch. Remember to keep in touch. And so our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Yea, God.
Tell what it means in your life. Spread the word, spread the word, spread the word. Spread the word. Of all the things we shared this morning, spread the word. That you're surrounded here by love, spread the word. Now our doors and hearts are open, spread the word, spread the word, spread the word. Spread the word. To anyone who's lost and lonely, spread the word. We
Guys just shut off, so there we go. We made it all the way through this.